Okay, tonight on The Power of Our Story, First Responders Coffee and Conversation, we have John and Heather from REBOOT Recovery. So I'm so excited about this. I know that they are helping so many people. So John and Heather, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of what your story is and what REBOOT Recovery is?
Absolutely. First of all, thank you so much for having us here tonight. I really enjoyed our conversation today, Sarah. And so extending this invite was really great. So I'm really excited to be here. So my story is I was a first responder. I worked in EMS for several years. I was a medic for a fire department at the end of my career. And I was in a car accident and suffered a traumatic brain injury. And that ended my career. So I was completely done. And I found myself in a very dark place. I'd always been a type A, go like Miss Independent, didn't need anybody, did everything, as you guys probably can imagine, being a medic with all men, like I was very, very tough and strong and always heard like, suck it up, buttercup, move on, and I ended up being a department trainer and everything in that. And so when my career ended, and I was told that with the significant losses and stuff that I had with things with my injury, that I was done. I was not going to be able to do that anymore. And realized that my career was over. I found myself in a very dark place, and all of the calls and everything that I had stuffed for so many years, the brain injury and the isolation that I found myself in, all came out. It all busted open. I was having hallucinations, nightmares. I was having like visual and smell hallucinations, I guess. There were certain smells that are still to this day, they're triggers, but it would just hit me. And I was in such a dark place. I was completely dependent on my husband and other people, and that was not a place I was used to being in. I got married later in life, and I just, I did need somebody to take care of me, and I found myself in a place where I had to be taken care of. I wouldn't leave my house. I couldn't drive anymore. I couldn't do anything on my own, and if I tried, I would end up hurting myself, falling, breaking a toe or a finger or something stupid. I would just get like really, really frustrated. And I got to the point that I was so severely depressed and sunk into the isolation. I didn't want to be around anybody. I was being forced to be on all these medications I did not want to be on. I felt like they were making things worse for me. I found myself in a very dark hole, and I was literally begging God to give me a way that I could end my life that would not affect a fellow first responder, because I couldn't stand to bear the thought of putting something like that in their thoughts and having them to deal with it, because I've dealt with suicide, obviously, on the job. And obviously he didn't do it. But so I was just in that desperation. He was beside himself. He didn't know what to do, because when he met me, I was this tough, strong, independent female, and now he's like literally having to take care of me. I'm having these like panic attacks and these anger outbursts and rage incidents and just all this stuff that goes along with PTSD and brain injury. He didn't know what to do. He was reaching out. We had no support around us. My mom at the time was going through some things, and she had moved out to Vegas to be with her family. And she was just asking us to come out and help her out because of a relationship that she was in and stuff. And so John found a job in Vegas, and we moved and headed out here. And that was about 4 years ago. And I still was in a very just weird place and going through a lot of thoughts and things, feeling like a complete failure, because now I can't work. I can't do anything. I'm just like this thing that has to be taken care of and all that. And just praying and praying, didn't know what to do. I went through the brain injury clinic in Michigan, and went through all the different types of therapies. And I just felt like that was it. There's nothing more. And I was just like up one night, and I was praying, and I was just crying, going through an episode. And I saw REBOOT Recovery. It was on Facebook, I think, and it was like an advertisement or something. And I saw that it was faith-based, and I saw a testimony of a short video that they had. And it touched me so deeply. Like I just started bawling, like, this is it. This is what I have to do. I didn't know if I'd have a purpose. And at the injury clinic, they told me, well, maybe, you can't practice, but maybe someday you'll be able to be a CISM responder, and you can go on scenes and help the first responders. And I was like, no, I need to be doing it. So I never thought I would be on this side of it. And, I reached out to Reboot and I was desperate, and they're like, we don't have anything out there. Like, sorry, you're kind of on your own. Like, we're mostly like, central and out east. We don't have much out west. And he's like, but you could start a group if you want. And I was like, not sure about that one. Started praying about it, talked to John. We were in prayer for about a year about it, because just a lot of different things that were going on. Decided to do it and launch it out here. And, it's really tough because we are not from this area. We do not know a lot of people at all. And trying to get into this, I'm still wrestling with just different things that come with, I'm out now. I finally, during COVID, I finally started driving again, which was a huge victory. So now I get to serve. We're chaplains for public safety, so police, fire in Vegas and Henderson. So we respond to a lot of stuff there with the officers. Recently, we've had some suicides, so we've been responding to that. And then Reboot, we lead courses here in Vegas. And then just about a month ago, Brian reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to work for Reboot. And it literally was like an answer to prayer, because I didn't think I was ever going to work again. I didn't think I was ever going to have a paying job again. I was doing ministry. That was my life. But I didn't think that I was ever going to be able to contribute to us again. I thought that I was forever going to be dependent on somebody else. And sorry, wow, I think I get emotional. And so they gave me the hope there again too. I'm doing better. I'm going through some grieving stuff right now. So that's probably why I'm emotional, because I did lose my mom 2 years ago on the 27th. So I just am going through that. It was a lot of stuff with that. She was in an abusive relationship. He got her addicted to medications, was pushing medications on her with alcohol, and isolated me from her. We moved out here to be with her, and I didn't see my mom or talk to her. So I didn't find out until Easter that she had passed away. They didn't contact me and tell me. So she passed away on the 27th, but I didn't find out till Easter. And I came out here to rescue her, but because I was injured, I wasn't able to. We called law enforcement. They intervened a few times, but there was nothing more that could be done. And so I lost her, and I didn't even know. And she was my best friend for so long. And the fact that, so that's a weight on me, because I spent my career, my life rescuing people and saving people. And the person that's the closest to me, I couldn't save her, even though I saw the signs, even though I reached out to social services and police and so many things, like I wasn't able to, because I wasn't in my right mind with my injury. And I was like highly emotional at times, and they probably thought I was just this crazy person that was like over emotional or whatever. And so I wasn't able to speak with her. And when I would call and try to talk to her, he would hold it against her and just torment her. And so I made the decision that I needed to give some space for her. And so I hadn't talked to her for several months before that, which again is really hard. Sorry, you guys, I'm not used to this, like this part. So I'm still working through that, but through serving other people, trying to get the awareness out there that, it's okay to reach out and ask for help. Like I stopped it for so many years because I thought I had to. I thought it would make me weak. I thought it would make me, I thought they would tell me that my career was over and I couldn't work in the profession, because if I can't handle what I'm dealing with, then I must not be equipped for the job. So I held everything in. And I learned through Reboot that, reaching out and asking for help, it doesn't make you weak, it makes you wise. And that none of us, we deal with things that the normal people don't understand it. They don't get it. And when we stuff it and we deal with it for so long, if we don't deal with it at some point, it will deal with us. And it almost took me out. About a year after we had prayed about Reboot, so that was just kind of like another validation that this is what I was meant to do. So yeah, that's like all over the place. And I was trying to keep it short and try to figure out like what things were important to say. But I have seen this program save lives. I have seen this program change people from coming in the door. One person was literally on the verge of suicide. This was the last hope for him. His daughter convinced him to come in. he did it for her. By the end of the course, he had hope again. He didn't follow through with his divorce of 30 years. They ended up reconciling and being together. And we just continue to hear these stories of people that they come to us as a last ditch, like, I'll try it for them. You know, they asked me to, I've done the medication, I've done the therapy, I've done it all. Why not just give this a try? I'm pretty much out anyway, but you know, I'll do that. And then to see them come back through our course and to start helping now. We have, you know, some people that are helping us out, leading and trying to reach other people. And it really is a testament to what God can do through peers that have been there, walked through the stuff, and that want to just come alongside people and just, you know, take their hand and walk with them through it. And that's what's happened for me. And it gave me a sense of hope again, because I didn't know if I had one. I didn't know if I had a purpose anymore, and it's given me that. And so with all that, I'll quit whining and I'll turn it over to John. But thanks for letting me share, you guys. I wasn't expecting to get emotional, so sorry about that.
It's all right. Well, thank you. Before I say anything, I wanted to, because I know Heather's been saying reboot this and reboot that. Does anybody know what reboot is before I even start? I think it's I'm seeing, yeah. So let me just say real quick before I even say anything, so you guys get a feel for, these guys are wearing reboot shirts and there's a reboot sign behind them. What is that? So the real quick, high level, 30 seconds on it. Reboot is it's a faith-based course that we teach. It's 12 weeks long. We meet once a week for 2 hours a week, and it's specifically for first responders. We also have another one that is open to non-first responders. And the whole purpose of it is to help people understand, A, what is trauma? What are the impacts of trauma? How does trauma even enter into our lives? And how does it impact not only ourselves, but also how does it impact those that we're in relationships with, families, et cetera? And we really walk them through an understanding of how to heal from service. I'm speaking from a first responder point of view, how to heal from service-based trauma. Call after call after call, and all of the things that come with that. What's that mean? How do we deal with it? How do we heal from it? And how can we move forward? And so we take an approach that is a faith-based approach, but we do also obviously include a clinical component to it as well. So that, in a quick nutshell, is what Reboot is and what she was talking about.
Reboot also has a combat. It started with combat veterans. That's how Reboot got started in the first place. And then it branched off to first responders, and then the past year into general trauma. Sorry, you guys, I didn't even think of, yeah. No, but fine. That's what it is.
So a little bit about me, and I'm one of those, I guess I'm a typical male maybe, but I tend to not share a lot. I'm a prior law enforcement and search and rescue in Detroit. That's where I was. And I had my career ended, unfortunately, due to a medical. I'm kind of that poster child of what happens from a trauma standpoint when you're on the job with law enforcement and you decide that, you're okay. I mean, how often do we go up to somebody in our profession and we say, hey, how's it going? How you doing? I'm good. That was me. I'm good. Underneath, down below, I was not good. I was not good at all. I had all sorts of things from various calls that I had been on and so forth that I just chose to put away in a box, stuff it down, and get on to the next call and get on to the next call. And I never dealt with it. And over the years, it caught up with me to the point that I found myself sitting on my living room couch with a shotgun in my mouth. And so it just doesn't end well. And as a result, I ended up being medically retired, diagnosed with PTSD and a whole list of other things that are colorful that go along with that. But it was a tough road. It was very, very difficult, obviously. And it took me a lot of years to get to the other side, to the point that I am today, where my passion is really to help fellow first responders not follow the same path I was on and not get to the same place I was on for them individually, their families, their relationships, even in their work life, etc. And so that's where I just have a massive passion for being able to relate and talk to first responders one-on-one or in a group or whatever it is, and say, I know what you're talking about, been there, done that in many respects, and helping them kind of change course, so to speak. And so this whole program, this Reboot Recovery program for me is huge, because it really takes and allows me to combine my experience from a law enforcement and search and rescue point of view, and all of the traumas, all of the issues that I unfortunately lived through, and then the end result of that, which was not fun, to the point of now taking it forward and saying, look, it doesn't have to be that way. I then, once I left all of that, I had an opportunity to go to seminary. I became a pastor, pastored a church out in Michigan. And that's a whole nother piece of my life that has opened up, which really helps bridge the gap a bit with this as well. So it's been outstanding. It really, really has. And we talk about the faith component of it, but it's one of those things that we don't beat people over the head about faith and this and that or the other thing. We welcome people to come and be a part of that, whether they are completely against God or any kind of faith or belief, or whether they do have it. It doesn't matter. It's just simply a piece that we include. And the reason is because when you talk about trauma or you talk about PTSD and all of these things, everybody recognizes that those things can affect you psychologically. We understand the science, we understand the clinical aspects of that, and most people get it. And we also understand that it can affect us physically. There's no question about that. People tend to get that and they understand it. But if it can affect us psychologically, and if it can affect us physically, it stands to reason it can also affect us spiritually, morally. And so that's the other component. That's kind of the third leg that I call it, that we bring into the picture to say, yes, let's look at these, psychological and physical, but let's also take a look and see, is there something there from a wound that we might have? And it's helping people understand that you're not broken. It's a wound. You're wounded. When you deal with this kind of stuff, you've been wounded. So that's me. And yeah, we love what we've been able to do and been able to impact so many people through this thing in the very short period of time we've been here in Vegas. And now my thing is, I sit back and I get frustrated. I'm just going to be really candid. I sit back and I get frustrated because I see departments here in the Vegas area, whether it's law enforcement or fire, and they just continue to keep that mindset, and they don't want to hear it. They don't want to look at it. They don't want to deal with it. And then we get the phone calls as chaplains, this individual ended up killing themselves. And it's like you people, the word has to get out somehow. And that's my big frustration point, is I have such a hard time getting the word out. And it's like, how do I get the word out so these people can understand that this is available to them? So that's me.
What great sharing. Oh my gosh. I'm so glad that you came on, John and Heather. And I appreciate just the candidness. I appreciate the vulnerability. I think everybody on this call can relate to what you're sharing. And I'm so grateful that you're paying it forward. I know that you're impacting people. Does anybody have any questions?
Not a question, just a statement. You guys are, incredibly brave to be here. And just like Chris already mentioned, being vulnerable is huge. And this is the place for it. These guys are family, big time. So we just traveled, I don't know how many hours on a plane to go see Chris for the first time, and just fell in love with each other in real life for the first time. So you guys are safe here as any place else in the entire world. So I say keep doing what you're doing. And Heather, for you, no apologies for being emotional, because I guarantee you we all are. At some point, we're going to be doing the same thing. So, and I just love that. So that's all I got for now. So
Thank you.
Yeah, you definitely have another family here. Even as you do your thing, you can always come here and unfold, unpack whatever you need. You know, this can be another place of support for you. Somebody else was about to say something. I didn't see who it was. David?
I'll pop in for a second. First of all, thank you for sharing that and for opening up and showing that, you know, just like Chris said, your vulnerability. It's what we're all about here as a team. And we've all been in that same position as we've become acquainted with each other. And so happy to have you guys here as part of this amazing group that Sarah facilitates. The unrelated, more housekeeping type questions. What's your guys' last name?
It's Flint. It's spelled F-L-I-N-T.
Awesome. I just keep a ton of notes, so that's why I was asking. And at some point, if you could share your contact info, that would be awesome, or we can get it through Sarah. The reason I'm asking for that is I don't know if you guys know Randy Sutton at all.
Yes.
You know Randy? Have you guys met before?
So I don't know Randy. I've had this was maybe last year. He found out a little bit about this reboot program, and he and I exchanged a few emails, and then we had a really good conversation, phone conversation. Shortly, it was it was actually this year, because I want to say it was maybe 4 weeks after our phone conversation. His household experienced COVID, and so that
He got hit hard.
Yeah, that situation kind of put things. We didn't reconnect. I'll just say that we didn't reconnect after that.
If you're comfortable with it, I've known Randy for about 30 years. I'd be happy to put you guys back in touch and, you know, give him a good word that you guys are certainly a group that he should be connected to. And I think you guys could service each other in ways that are, you know, more 1 + 1 = 6 with the two of you guys. So I think that would be awesome. And he does such amazing things with his Wounded Blue group. And I think you guys could certainly benefit from knowing each other. So that's the housekeeping part. But so you guys sound you're doing an awesome thing. I really appreciate all the work. We're all here for the same reasons, and love what you guys are doing. And me personally, any way I can help you guys out, please don't ever hesitate to reach out.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
My turn. I'm actually driving home from an appointment right now. So let me just try and make it focused and quick. You said about how difficult it was. You know, I'm the girl, I've been a nurse 34 years, you know, never drank, never did drugs, never any of that. But all the emotional part of everything that we saw, you know, I held it in. And now all these years later, I'm paying the consequences health-wise. And I think what I want to say is first is I'm really glad that you added that spiritual part, because if I didn't have a solid foundation with my faith, I think the outcomes would have been different for me. And even today, I went in and I had to have another specialized heart exam, which I'm sure is all connected to all of the stress and anxiety. And from being told there's nothing wrong, you know, you look at my chart, here's a girl with PTSD and anxiety, history of depression, she'll be fine, there's nothing wrong, you know, and the symptoms I was having were passed over, it's fine, it's in your head, there's nothing wrong. And now here I am having all these specialized exams because there is something wrong. So I want to say, I think the biggest part is advocating for yourself. And we as first responders are trained to take care of everyone else and are guilty of not taking care of ourselves. And even today, my conversation with the nurse, we were talking and, you know, just kind of sharing, so what do, you know, kind of getting a history. And, you know, and I said, well, I advocate. And if it wasn't for the fact that I knew how to advocate and be a patient and advocate for myself, you know, these heart problems that they're finding would have kept being swept under the rug. Nothing's wrong. It's this girl's anxiety. And she said, well, you know, this is going to help you help someone else. And I think that's the biggest thing, what you're doing right now, is that we get to that point that we realize, you know, now it's our turn to help something else. And I even said it today. I said, you know, we don't always know why we go through the things that we do. I said, you know, there's a reason for it, but we don't know the reason when we're going through it. And then the nurse told me, you know, that's so that we can help the next person in line. And I think, you know, that's great that what you're doing. And especially for me, the spiritual part, because you said you've become a minister, and I've thought of going back to becoming a chaplain because of the faith part that got me through. But thank you for sharing, and I'd definitely be interested in hearing more about your group too.
Absolutely. Yeah. And what I'll do, I'm just going to put Heather and I's, actually, I'm just going to put our cell phone numbers right in the chat. And feel free to, you know, a lot of times people will say, you know, well, here, I'll put my number in there and, you know, call anytime. And really deep down, they really don't mean it. They're like, I hope they only call like, you know, up until 5 p.m., but not after. You know, when we say it, we truly, sincerely mean it, that our phones are truly on 24/7, and they're on purposefully because of what we do and the folks that we serve. We're available. And so that is extended to you guys. So I'm going to put the numbers in here, and at any time, you know, questions, anything, feel free to reach out.
That goes for us too here, man. If you need to call anytime, please do so. And being out on the East Coast, if you feel you need to call at 4 o'clock in the morning, don't worry, because it's already 7 here. So I'm definitely up and around. No, seriously though, call, you know, listen, that we all answer the phone. So that goes both ways.
Right. And the suicide prevention organization that I work with is national, and you really should get connected with them in the Las Vegas area, because that will give you resources. And when they have events, you can always have a informational nonprofit booth to get you more exposure.
That's awesome. Yeah, we'd love to get that information for sure.
John, Heather, it's amazing how, listening to your two stories, there's so many bits and pieces that I pick out of my own. You know, my career ended in a fall through a staircase in a house fire, and I think Heather, it sounds like you and I were very similar in that what we did got all kinds of tangled up in who we were. And, you know, and eventually you come to find out it's the other way around, that we did what we did because of who we are. But a 30-year stroll through, I refer to it now as PTSI, post-traumatic stress injury. I think that more accurately describes what the continued trauma does to us. It's an injury, just like just like getting shot or falling out of a fire engine and breaking your leg. One of the things I wanted to talk about in my looking at when I started getting treatment, and I found after I was finally formally diagnosed, I started EMDR therapy, and it's been an absolute miracle. And when I started, I call it a emotional equinox. I started spending more time in the light than in the dark. And I was contacted on LinkedIn by a member of the New York State Chaplains Task Force. And in the course of this conversation we were having, God put his hand on me and said, son, this is your calling. And so that's what I'm moving toward. I'm actually starting my first semester in seminary in February. One of the things that I found in trying to figure out how to grow a chaplain and peer support network here in Iowa is that there are a lot of small organizations. I see individuals. There's a injury retired firefighter right here in West Des Moines who started an organization. There's a lot of organizations, big and small, spread out around the United States, and we're not connected enough, I don't think. Like Mick Yinger's organization, the First Responders Bridge, what an awesome organization. But they're in Ohio. And we're on the affiliated with the New York State Chaplains Task Force is the U.S. Chaplain Task Force. And we're trying to grow that organization and start a new organization called FRAT, First Responder Assistance Teams, which would be similar to what you guys do, certified chaplains who also are first responders or retired first responders that get trained in peer support. But it seems like it's very fractured right now from a national standpoint. And I'm just wondering, you know, it would be great if a lot of these smaller organizations could network together and I guess it would be more about awareness. I mean, it's awareness of the availability of things like peer support networks, because I really do think that that is the frontline boots on the ground. You know, we're not there as clinicians. We're not there to perform therapy, but we're there to give them that initial contact with somebody who's been there, who's drug their ass through hell in a gasoline suit, just like they did, and that can convince them to go to a clinician. I mean, that's really what we are, is that bridge between having no one at all and being able to actually connect with a professional. And that's what happened to me. I have a brother doing a buddy check, and I finally decided not to bullshit him about what was going on anymore. And that saved my life. And so I think all this on the chat, sharing names, sharing emails, phone numbers, that's what we need to do. We need to get people who are at the tops of these organizations that are spread out all over the place to connect with one another, to really, really start to raise awareness on a much bigger level. Every one of us has seen and knows agencies that still just don't get it. And fighting a house fire is the result of a failure at some point of fire prevention. And that's what we're all doing right now. We're all firefighting. And that's not going to cut it until we start in academies, until we start teaching rookie cops and rookie firefighters how to take care of themselves from the time they enter these agencies. We're all still going to be fighting more fires than we can put out, and we're still going to be losing our brothers and sisters to suicide. And that's what I think that's the secret. We've got to get it upstream. And so I'm going to add my email to the chat.
It's a lot of powerful stuff, man. Number one, let me say, John and Heather, thank you so much for your selfless servant leadership, both before in your prior professions and what you're doing now. It's a very heroic thing, and it doesn't go unnoticed. And I absolutely love the fact that you join an organization that you believe in, gives you passion, and gives you that new purpose to move forward. But a couple of questions for you. In your processes, I see that you, Heather, kind of went up and down. You had some confidence issues for a little while, and now you found the confidence that, you know, you can share and it's okay to ask for help and things like that. I agree with that 10,000%. At what point did you find out that there was that switch for both of you? Can answer independently, where that switch was for you, that you recognized that you were at whatever point that you can now ask for help, or that point or in your process as to where that courage came from? Because I believe that you probably always had it inside of you, but you let it get lost for a little bit. And if you could help, maybe, especially since this is recorded and other people will see this, how you work through that process to recognize that courage that you absolutely have to share and help out so many others.
Honestly, for me, it was through prayer, and it was once we got out here and once I got connected with Reboot. Because when I was going through my process, and I know Brenda had mentioned it, like I looked fine on the outside. So everybody was just acting like there was nothing wrong with me. And so I started to withdraw from the medical community and the first responder community because I felt betrayed. I felt like I was one of you serving. How can you not understand? Like I'm not one of the seekers. I'm not one of the people that are like, whatever, like I was crying out and I kept getting, these things like going through the hospital and stuff. Cause I had to go into a clinic and they were forcing me to all these different appointments and medications and everything because I got rear-ended by a distracted driver. That's what happened. So then attorneys got involved and it was a mess. And so I started just isolating because I didn't trust anybody. And I spent a lot of time in prayer on my own and just asking God just to help me understand. I either wanted to die, I either wanted to be done and just let me die or show me how to do it myself or turn this around because I can't live like this anymore. And when we got out here and I found Reboot and I was praying about it and talking to some Reboot people, I was like, that's it. Like, I'm done. Like, I will go out there and I will, at the time, and I still feel like I ramble because of my stuff, but I'll make a fool out of myself and I'll go out there and I'll talk to anybody and tell them that, we have to see, like, God rescued me through this. It's okay. We have to talk. We have to start talking about this because of our mentalities that it's not okay to ask for help. And I just refuse to not be as outspoken as I can about that, to try to save lives, because I've seen it too many times. And God did something inside me. He gave me this shift of, it's okay to get out now. I mean, I literally was being told that if I did not leave my house, my therapist and doctors were going to stop seeing me because I was so isolated. I wouldn't even leave my house. I was so afraid. I was so triggered. I mean, it was horrible. And God literally rescued me. When I got out here to Vegas, I got off all the medications and started serving more, and him being a pastor and praying for me all the time and me praying. I mean, I give it to God 100,000,000%, because if it was not for him, I wouldn't be here because I wanted to die. I didn't want to impact anybody else in that, but I wanted to go. I did not want to be here anymore. I don't know if that answered your question, and I'm sorry if it didn't.
There's, I just want to tap into that, Chris, if you don't mind, before responding. You said two things that are resonating with me, and I'll go one to the first to the spiritual and religious aspect. Everybody here that knows me knows that religion is not my thing. However, I envy those for those that it is, because I think that it has brought you to a place that is so positive, and it gives you a belief system that carries you through some of these darkest times. And I truly envy those that have that. I don't, but I respect it, and just I'm so grateful that you have that internal support where you can have that faith in something that's greater than yourself to be able to carry you through these moments. I think that's incredible. The other thing you had said that really grabbed my attention was the concept of betrayal. And that, I think, is a running theme that has come through everybody, at least on this group, and so many of the folks that I have in my life that have struggled with some of this stuff, which is how I got involved in this whole concept to begin with. Just 30-second background on that is my buddy Danny committed suicide last year on July 29th, and the concept of everything with him was betrayal. It was a betrayal of his wife, unfortunately, the betrayal of his community during the riots, betrayal of his department when he tried to mitigate the betrayal of the community, and then the betrayal of his partner, who said he no longer wanted to work with him. So that stuff capitalizes on itself, but I think the theme of betrayal is so important to talk about, because it seems to be an underlying theme for so many of these things that we all struggle with, as in this profession, the first responders group. So thank you for making that part of your understanding and your mission to get past. And I think that's just something we all need to hit on more often.
And John, if you could
can I
kind of type in on your, yep, so go ahead.
I just want to tag on to what he said, that word, because I was going to say it too. That betrayal is a huge, huge thing. And I know I heard that word when you said, I'm not a seeker. And I know, like, that upset me, because I know what that means. I'm as clean cut as they come, never drinking, never this. I had my nursing license before I was 21. So all these years later in my career, when I was going in and having lots of problems with my health, and they accused me of being a seeker, the betrayal of that is horrible, because it's a betrayal of your community that you believed in. For them to even consider that was so insulting and so degrading. And
Did we lose you, Brenda?
I think she's just breaking, Chris. I mean, she's
sorry, I think I'm coming in and out because I'm driving.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, but I just wanted to say, like, that whole betrayal and knowing that that's the community that you serve, and that some one person decided to make that decision or come to that conclusion that you are a seeker is the worst thing that can happen when you're going through everything.
Yeah. And I told them, like, I go in and I'm like, I am in all this pain. I don't know how to make it better, but do not give me drugs. I don't want medications. Like, I fought them against the medications because I witnessed it in my career for so long. Like, I didn't want to be part of that. And so when they were still treating me like I was, like, if that's what I was in there for, it's like, they didn't understand. I needed help, but I didn't know how to express that. I didn't know what was broken inside me or what was wrong. I just knew that I had so much pain and so much torment and stuff that I didn't know what to do with it. And they, you know, they would make comments or whatever. And it just, it was horrible, because I was like, I don't understand. Like, I know what you're thinking and what you're saying and doing, because I was on the other side of that. Like, I had partners that were like that. Like, I get it, you know, and yeah, it was very frustrating.
And John, if you could touch on how that affected you. And I think this is one of those really unique things that we don't get very often, because I think that dudes and girls really process things differently. And you guys have that support system together, which is absolutely fantastic. But, you know, sometimes we just hear a female say, hey, this is how I process it. The guys are like, oh, okay, whatever. And it's kind of cool to have a couple that can talk about that stuff together. And just the courage you guys are showing to be so vulnerable in front of a bunch of strangers shows how strong and courageous you actually are. So again, thank you for that.
Yeah. So is your question, how did I process her going through her stuff?
No, your own stuff and your own kind of where your breaking point was, where you kind of you know, sucked into yourself, and then found the courage to, you know, kind of right your own ship, and then to be able to speak about it and be so vulnerable with it.
Yeah. So, you know, on the surface, outside looking in, after people hear, you know, hear a piece of my story, and, you know, they say, oh, well, man, his point of major, you know, turnaround was at the point that he was on his couch with the gun. And that wasn't my turning point, believe it or not. That didn't, you know, right the ship for me. And maybe it's because I'm a little too stubborn or too prideful or whatever the case was at that time. And that's actually, it's not, I'm going to rephrase that, because I said, maybe it was because I was too prideful, or maybe it was because, let me just call it what it is. It was because I was too prideful. It was because I had, you know, so much in me that even going to that point, I continued living my life in many of the same ways. And it really, my point really didn't come until, you know, God truly got a hold of me and literally shook me by the scruff of my neck and said, you are done. You're done. And, you know, I got to it, and how I knew that is I literally got to a point where I was just exhausted. I was tired, exhausted. I had nothing more to give. I was all done trying to continue to put up this facade of what I wanted people to think about me, what I wanted people to view me as. I was tired. I was tired of being tired and kind of wearing all these different masks, hiding the truth and the reality behind that mask. And it was at that point that I was like, you know what? No, this is it. I'm done. And that's when things began to really shift and change. And I'll be honest, when the question, part of your question was, at what point was that, was I to a point where I could kind of talk about it or be willing to share a lot of stuff? It really wasn't until, this whole reboot thing really came to be. And Heather can attest. I remember when it was like, okay, it's time for you to kind of tell your story a bit. And I was like, oh, dude, I don't want to tell my story. I remember writing my story out and I put it in a safe box that I still to this day have in my closet. And it's been there for over 20 years. That's how long ago this whole thing started for me. And I just, so for me to be able to kind of even tell my story or feel comfortable putting it out there took me a long time. And when we talk about what's your turning point, for me, my turning point is every day. Every day is my turning point. And that's the way that I look at things now is every day is a new day. Every day is a blessing. Every day is an opportunity for me to make an impact, a positive impact for somebody else. And that's how that's a turning point for me every day.
God bless you both. Thank you so much.
Sure.
I'll step in now if that's okay. Heather, I can so relate to I'm ready to be, car accident was mine. 4 car accidents in 10 years, and the last one took me out for a year. It also saved my life. They found injuries, medical problems that could have been terminal that they were able to catch. But it also one night found myself crying in the dark, wishing I'd died in that car accident, because I didn't have anything physical or anything that anybody could see. But I'd gone years going to doctors with pain and stuff and that prior to that. And there's a book out that says, I got it in the library, but I haven't read it yet. It's Your Body Knows. And I have no doubt up until that point, those 4 car accidents, the first 3 was, and I want to say, God, just something out there, whatever it is, was saying, change your life or we'll take you out. And so I had to make a turning point there. I wasn't at work. I've got 40 years with the Royal Canadian Mounted Police as an emergency police dispatcher. My husband was a police officer as well. And it was, I had to make a decision. I was off work, so work didn't know anything about it. I thought everything was car accident. Found my own psychologist. The first one I wouldn't give you 2 cents for. The second one I found on my own, and she was amazing. And she, one session with her, she says, this has nothing to do with the car accident. This has everything to do with your job. And she was a blessing. And I guess things started to slide a bit. And 2 years after that, I underwent a pulmonary embolism and survived it. So, like I say, God's not finished with me. He has a plan. I don't know what it is, but I have to step into it. And I slide and I go back and I come back and I go back. But I tell you, this group has been the best group that I've ever been with. And these guys are amazing. And I'm very happy to meet you.
And I'm sorry I faded in and out. I parked so I could hear. I was driving, and you guys know where I live. So in between all the high rises, I faded in and out.
So let me, if I may, jump in for a sec. Everybody has kind of told part of their story, so I'll tell you just a tiny little bit about mine. So some of the demons I fought were abandonment from my family, and then being on Phoenix for 20 years, burying 16 in the line of duty, and some really nasty traumatic events that pushed me over the edge to, beyond over the edge. And so for me, a lot of what happened for me was awareness, which we haven't really talked about that yet. Making myself aware that I wasn't okay, which was the first step, you know, and then realizing I was at the bottom step that I could possibly be at. And for me, what that was basically just shutting down and shutting everybody else out. And then the next step, John, I kind of picked up on it with you a little bit, and I don't want to call you out, but I think a lot of it for me, which may be with you as well, was denial. I'm like, no, I'm good. You know, I'm pounding my chest. Yeah, check me out, man. Look at me. I'm good to go. And realizing that, yeah, you know, I'm not as much of a badass as I think I am, you know? So getting past the denial portion and then accepting that I wasn't okay. And then that wasn't enough either. Then taking it to the next level and then actually seeking that help. That was a massive step for me because it didn't even come from me. It came from somebody else that literally cornered me in our EAU office one day and says, "Hey, you're gonna go talk to the lieutenant." No, I'm good. No, you're not. You know, and I fought it. I did. I fought it forever. Even during the first probably 3 or 4 weeks when I got reassigned off the street, I still fought it. I said, "This is not where I'm supposed to be," you know, and going kind of back full circle back to that awareness portion where I said, you know, yeah, these guys are professionals. This is what they do. And if you look back at my history of just based on my career alone, the stuff that I did and saw, you know, and I quoted in my stories in my book where it's like, you can't go, in my case, what I say 18 years, see the worst of the worst that the world had to offer and expect to be okay. Because you're just not. There's just no way. And so what I tell people now is that if you want to be okay, you can be. Or you can do what so many of us do, just like I already hit on 10 times. You can play the victim role, or you can stay in the denial role, or you can say, you know, this is bullshit. I'm going to step out and actually fix myself. So I commend you guys for that. And I commend everybody else here because we wouldn't all be here if we weren't pretty much on the same page. So that's my little 2 cents. Forgive me. I apologize. I thought I got myself off the screen. I didn't mean to eat on screen. That was really rude. My apologies for that. So you can give me the 3 lashes later. So.
Hey, this is coffee and conversation. I've gotten on here and eaten my dinner too, because that was the only time I could do it. You're good. What great comments, you guys. I really appreciate your comments too. I think this has been a great conversation.
You know, to tag on to what Chris is saying about being aware, I think for me, part of my driving force is because when I went in to seek help, I was told not to tell anyone, you know, whatever. The line was whatever. And I remember it, whatever you do, don't tell your colleagues because nobody's going to want to work with you. And I think, you know, in hindsight now, all these years later, that physician put her shame and everything that she knew on me because I didn't know shame at that time. You know, I didn't know I was supposed to not tell anyone. I didn't know it was something that if I went in to, you know, ask for help that, you know, I was supposed to be embarrassed of it or ashamed of it, you know, because we're a nurse. When something's broken, you go in and you go get it fixed. And so even now, because of that betrayal that I mentioned earlier when I was fading in and out, where I had an emergency nurse accuse me of being a seeker and mark my chart for that. The betrayal of my own community, because none of that was true, is something that now will still trigger me. Like I mentioned today, I had to go in for a specialized heart exam, but anytime I have to go in for an exam to someone new or explain my history or explain, it re-triggers everything. But it all goes back to that betrayal part. If I've been betrayed, of course I'm not going to trust you. If I've been betrayed by my own community, of course I'm not going to trust you. So that I think I've said this from the beginning. Those are like my 2 biggest words: betrayal and trust. Screw me over once, it's over. I will never trust you again. And I know all of that goes back to what happened here. And from work, we're supposed to be a community. We're all together. You know, we're supposed to help each other. I know in a lot of ways my views are different in some, well, not a lot, but in some ways because I am a nurse. So, you know, everybody's the same to me. But those are the things, you know, if your own community can't support you, then how are we supposed to be a community when that's what we're there for, to help each other?
I have to say I was blessed because everything happened to me before they even acknowledged that there was such a thing as PTSD. That was 2002 at the car accident. And it was also before they even acknowledged that police dispatchers could be affected the way they were. And so all of my stuff was done while I was on sick leave due to the car accident. So I didn't have to go through our RCMP medical team. I didn't have to go through that. I chose a psychologist that wasn't part of the police force. And I really think that that contributed a lot to my recovery.
No, absolutely, absolutely. And I had no clue, I just knew like, I don't want to go because I'm going to get upset. I'm going to get emotional. Like I had no clue that's what that was called, that even all these years later, it could still trigger me until I had a physician tell me, sweetheart, this is what's wrong. You have such and such and such, don't you know? And I'm like, no, it's just part of who I am. I know, don't stress me because I'm going to get emotional. But it's really, because of the way it was handled. And even now recently with me having health issues and me complaining, look, I feel this is what I'm feeling. This is what's going on. And being told nothing was wrong. Okay. My mind is saying, okay, Brenda, believe them. Nothing is wrong. But I know something is wrong. And sure as hell, you guys have been with me through this journey the past year and a half, getting to the bottom of things. Something is seriously wrong. And again, because of that, it bounces you straight back. There's that betrayal, there's that little extra baggage in the background that always wants to come back and say, hey, Brenda, remember me? It's traumatic because of the way it was dealt with the first time.
So I think I told you guys this, that 22-0 is coming on October 15th. And then Johnny Walker, if you're ever on the other calls, there's Johnny Walker, David knows him. And Michael Parker knows him. So 22-0 actually has some kind of technique. I'm thinking it's kind of like EMDR. It's the same.
It's a version of.
Oh yeah, David, you did it. Maybe you could share a little bit, because I was telling Heather about that today. It seemed like it'd be so complementary to what they're doing. And then for Brenda, that it might be a great way. David, why don't you explain it a little bit?
Sure. It's I don't remember the technical terms, but it's similar to, like Sarah said, an EMDR type therapy. What they do is they take a memory of a trauma, they have you convert it into black and white, actually, when you're thinking about it. They have you watch yourself watching the movie of the trauma. And then so to the point where you're embracing it, but you're embracing it as a third party. And then you kind of watch it back to a point that's pre-trauma, as if you're watching the movie in reverse. And it just recategorizes it somewhere differently in your brain. It's taking it from a storage cabinet that, the drawers cause you trouble and they don't open and close properly, and you can't access the information and you get frustrated by it, to a place where the drawers operate smoothly and you can lock it and put it away somewhere else. It doesn't make you forget about any of it. It doesn't make it go away completely, but you just know it's there and you respond to it in a different way. The emotional response to it is a rational one versus I'm really fucked up from this one. And I think that is the most plainest way to describe it. It changes the neural pathways between the emotions and the event itself and where it's stored in your brain. It's kind of goofy when you're going through it. You're like, this is ridiculous. And it's like one of those things where you feel like Mickey Mouse in a cartoon. But the truth is, it's extremely helpful. It's not something you're going to finish with in the half hour or so session and be like, wow, I'm cured of all this crap now. It doesn't work that way. There's no magic pill for any of this, no matter how you're managing it. However, for me, when I went through it, the next morning when I woke up, I just felt different. I felt lifted. I felt light. And when my kids were not getting out of the house, which is just morning drama 5 days a week for me, I responded to it differently. I didn't start yelling. I'm like, whoa, what's going on here? My wife even said, what the hell happened to you? You didn't yell at all this morning. And then as time went on, I just found myself reacting to things in a different way, in a more positive way, in a more resilient way, in a more grateful way. And I can't recommend it enough. And the background, and I know we'll get it when 22-0 comes on. Dan's coming on with
Yeah.
John.
And Cynthia too. Johnny and Cynthia.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So Dan Jarvis is the founder of 22-0, and so Dan is a PTSI recovery person himself. He'll go through his story, and I don't want to spoil it, but he was on, I mean, I think I can't even count anymore the medications he was on. It was well into the double digits, and he was at a point of no return as well, when he stumbled across this alternative therapy. And he was like, why not at this point, you know? So at this point in his life, he's figured it out. He is on no medications, and he's taken that therapy to his own nonprofit, essentially. And 22-0 has been awesome. And they did a lot of work in this past year for 9/11 responders, which is how I ended up getting connected with them. Awesome. They're going to be such an awesome addition to our conversation. I can't wait. There was something else I wanted to say to you guys. I don't remember. I'll think of it in a minute, but that was the 22-0 part.
They're doing amazing stuff. And when I was talked to Dan, because I'd had listened to a podcast that another man that we had trained together in our NLP, timeline therapy and hypnotherapy. And it turns out that it was Alan, the guy that was with me on the course, was the one who did the session with Daniel. And so we had, because I'd say, do you know Alan? He says, well, yeah. I says, were you the one in the podcast where he says you and him were on about how that first session and how different? Yeah, that was me. So they're doing amazing work. And actually this first while with my book sales that I'm working towards one session to raise enough money to gift a session to somebody. I think it's so worthwhile.
Does anybody have any more thoughts?
One thing I know, Dave and I, we talked about this, I think maybe the Wounded Blue conference, end of October in Vegas. You guys happen to be going to that?
We haven't heard of it.
Oh my God, Dave, you probably know more about it than I do, man. It's going to be huge. Some really very big names going to be there. So
yeah, it's a big deal. Randy puts that on, and so I will certainly send that email out first thing tomorrow, so you guys can be connected and maybe work something out with him to be there. If nothing else, maybe to be a booth, and however you do that or whatever you guys work out. So yeah, he's putting on a big event. Unfortunately, I can't be out there. I know I didn't get the yard pass from the CEO of our household. And it's our anniversary weekend, and it's whatever. But he puts on a good show. There's going to be some big names. Gosh, I'm drawing a blank at the moment. The Minneapolis County Sheriff, Dave. That's his name. I'm throwing a blank. And I'm pretty sure he's going to be there. I know I've got some media folks that are going to be out there as well. So it's going to be a huge event.
There's supposed to be several thousand people there. Kevin Gilmartin, Sheriff Lamb from Arizona, Dave Grossman, one of my former colleagues, Jason Schechterly, who is the most unbelievable human on the planet. He's going to be the opening speaker for the whole thing. His story will have you on your knees just crying. It's unbelievable. So Nat and I will be there probably just selling books, thanks to some of our friends that we've kind of reached out to for assistance, which is a whole nother story too. So they're booking up pretty fast. I know for us, I'm not going to get a chance to speak this time because I got into it too late, but we are going to get a booth, and it's kind of pricey for us. They're going to charge us $1,000, but we can be there for the whole entire time. And you get all kinds of stuff that comes with that. You get tickets to the conference. Randy has actually personally invited me back to his house to smoke cigars, so I can't wait for that. So I'm looking forward to that.
He's still smoking cigars. He's had a heart attack.
I don't think that was actually before that, before his heart attack. So he may have shifted gears a little bit, but
I'll get after him.
yeah, I will too. I will too. So really, really neat guy. I mean, just an honorable human being as well. It's just going to be amazing. So we can't wait. I'm hoping it was going to be a lot sooner, but so.
I want to come work in your booth.
You know what? We actually, Natalie, no kidding. I mean, no, this is no kidding. We actually kind of need somebody to help us facilitate a little bit because.
No kidding. It's the end of the month, right?
Yeah, it's I think the 28th through the 30th. I believe.
That's my birthday weekend. I want to come help you guys in the booth.
All right.
We'll talk after. We'll talk after.
Good and bad. We're driving to Arizona the day before, so we're gonna leave San Diego, Arizona, and then straight to Vegas right after this other thing we're doing. It's like, well, I say we, but I'll be doing all the driving. Thank you very much.
Okay, we'll talk after.
Okay, cool.
I just remember what I was going to say to you, John and Heather. So this phrase I've been using recently that I picked up in this class last week is, and you guys are the resounding example of it. You had said, Heather, about bouncing back, and I actually look at it the other way around. I look at it as bouncing forward, and I think that you guys are the example of that. And I just think you guys are awesome and such a great job, and keep bouncing forward. And you guys are doing the right things, and you're going to be fine.
Thank you. I love that. I'm going to hold on to that.
Yeah, bouncing
forward. I think that's great.
I love
And
that.
Chris, I would come and help you at the booth too, except I don't think they'll let me across the border yet.
There will be a day.
passport.
I'll make some calls. I know some people up there on the border, so I'll hook you up.
Well, John and Heather, this has been really great. I really appreciate your vulnerability. I mean, you're so relatable, you're so real. And we all know that a lot of all this that we're talking about is happening. As you know, they've said, everybody who comes on and shares their story, it's full of, it was great until it wasn't, and then what do you do with that? And you guys really are bouncing forward. What do you want people to take away from this? Like the people who see this video and, this group, what would be the main things that you would want us to take forward?
For me, just that there's always hope, and we're here. We're all in this together. Every single one of us, no matter where we live or whatever, we're all in this together. And we're available if anybody ever wanted to just reach out. You're going to be in Vegas, that's great. Otherwise, give us a call, email, text, whatever. That there's hope. Just keep hanging on. And if someone's in a spot and it's in a dark place or whatever, and you just need an ear to listen, or somebody just to sit on the other end, call us. That's what we're here for, and we mean that. We understand that darkness and being able to see the light on the other side and the hope. And we want to try to, express that to everybody we can, and just be here to team up and come together and just be a partnership and a family, because we are an extended family.
That's right. And can you share the website again? What is it? What is the website?
www.rebootrecovery.com.
Okay. All right, great. And then it's John and Heather Flint. So
funny thing, Flint, Flint, like the city in Michigan, where he's from, Michigan. I love that.
Oh, that's great. Well, listen, thank you again. Appreciate it so much.